Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to WMSE's Radio Summer Camp Symposium. The title of this afternoon session is On the Road Again. And sitting up here with me is John Mueller, owner of Crouton Music, collection of colonies of Bees fame, drummer extraordinaire. And next to John is Peter Just, club owner of Shank Hall. And today we're going to talk about what it's like to be on the road. John has a lot of experience being a touring musician, playing all over the world. Peter, kind of on the other end, but also has done some tour booking. He owns a club. He has to deal, with bands that are on tour as well as local bands. And the other thing that Peter's done is he's become quite an expert at routing bands and creating tour schedules based on probably as a promoter the need to bring a particular artist to the Midwest, realizing that he could make it more lucrative as a promoter to put a band in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 clubs in the Midwest and doing all the booking through a company called Concert Group, which started when he was in college. So I think what I'll do is I'll just let John and Peter apart from mine tell a little bit about their experience. I think probably start with bands and touring.
Sure. I guess just on a basic level, I started playing drums when I was 15. Started in punk bands, rock bands, metal bands, and eventually just kind of found a home with a specific person who I felt real comfortable with, and we shared a lot of interests in style approaches, and worked with them really hard. And I guess that would be my first point to make, is that whatever it is you're doing, you're trying to tour or put a record out or whatever, really, the important thing is the people that you're working with. Find the right people to work with. And that's going to translate to any situation that you're in. Booking tours, putting on local shows, work with the right people. Work with people that feel like there's nothing weird, there's nothing, you're on the same level, you understand each other. You're not trying to get more than what they have to offer, and they're not trying to pull something over on you. And just go with your heart, people that you trust.
Is it better to, are friends kind of a burden in bands, or is it better to just, or be friends to be in a band?
I think the approach we've always taken is to be friends before you're in the band, if possible. That can go sour actually, because you can be really good friends with someone and start playing with them and realize they're not really that good. And how do you deal with that as a friend? So it's challenging, but I'd say it's more important to be friends with the person than just treat them as a business thing. Because if that's really what you're doing, then just go get a job and make a lot of money and forget all this stuff. It's a hard way to take. So be friends first. I guess from there, just to explain my experience, once I kind of started getting things established with what I was doing as a player, I have done a lot of touring. I've toured the United States, I've toured Europe, I've toured Japan. And each of those scenarios, even down to the city itself, has an extremely varying degree of success and failure, and you can't take one experience and use it as a template for all the other experiences. So I want to be clear about that too, because I don't want anybody here to have the impression that, if you do this in Milwaukee, if it works here, then you can do that anywhere else. It's really not true. Likewise, if you go anywhere else, I can go to Japan and play a whole week of sold-out shows, and I can play a show in Milwaukee to 10 people. So you can't use every experience as a template for anything else. I guess that's it for me for starters.
Sort of background?
Yeah, just background.
I started Alternative Concert Group in 1983, and started doing shows at WM because there wasn't really a spot. We had a 1,000-seat room, a 700-seat room, and a 200-seat room. That was back when, there wasn't a lot around. I think it was Palms and Century Hall, so it wasn't a lot to do. So I do a lot of touring bands. We did the first Jane's Addiction dates, and Jeffrey Lee Pierce, and all those Iggy Pop, and a lot of shows like that. And I also did shows at clubs in Milwaukee, and then realized in 1989 there needed to be a, like a 300 capacity club that was bigger than 100, and not as big as maybe the Rave or something. So I opened Shank Hall in '89, and we see touring bands 2 or 3 times a week, and local bands 1 or 2. So you get to see what works and what doesn't for bands. My advice on the road again is sort of what you're saying. Be friends, but also leave the girlfriend and wife at home.
Unless if they're in the band.
Unless they're in the band. And don't bring them along to sell T-shirts. That is just, if you have 4 guys in a band, and one of them brings a girlfriend to sell T-shirts, it's not going to go well. Because if you all seen Spinal Tap, you all seen the Beatles story, enough said. You can see how that happened. What happened to the Beatles. So, and I guess being on the road too, I would also, wherever you play, try to have your expectations realistic. Just be honest with people that you're going to play somewhere at. If you promise a lot more than expected, it's just not going to go well. You're better being honest with someone and say, hey, no one knows us here. Can you give us a shot, rather than say, hey, we can do 150 people, and then 15 show up and you say, it's a little bit off here. So that's what I would recommend. Also, if you're going to take someone, take a sound man, or at least a guitar tech person. Leave the merch selling to someone after the show or someone at the venue. I've had a few bands that come in, and they're a 5-piece band and they have a merch seller and no one else, and that just doesn't make any sense because you're really there for sound and for presentation and someone to help you set up, tune guitar or whatever. And the merch person just should be the last person you bring on the road, besides the girlfriend.
Yeah, depending how big of a show you're playing. I mean, selling your own merch is a great way to meet the people who are supporting you.
Afterwards, right?
And they're buying something of yours, so it's like, why wouldn't you want to talk to those people and find out, just interact with them? I mean, that's a great connection to make. Direct people. Those people are going to be more inclined to come back to your next show or buy something else that you put out than if you're just, you disappear off the stage and you're hiding backstage and, there's some guy in a polo selling your merchandise or something. I mean, it's like, there's no connection with the band.
Unless you can buy the guy a drink then, it's a win-win-win.